Hello, hello. Everybody can start filtering in here. Excited to have you guys for the Passive Prospecting live Q&A call. Today, we're going to go over just your overall questions about the course, about video editing, anything and everything related to the passive prospecting process. We also have one channel up for a channel review today, so we'll go ahead and do that. So stick around if you're kind of thinking about starting a channel. Maybe you don't know what to name your channel. Maybe you're a little bit confused on how to optimize your channel. This is the place for it. So I'm here, Lone Wolf today. Levi's off on his way to Tampa today. He just barely got back from Maui. It's been a very busy month for him. He'll hopefully be back with us next week. And today I'll just be handling all of your questions. So if you have questions, go ahead and pop those into the chat. While we're waiting for those questions to come in, I will go ahead and do our first channel review of the day. It looks like we only had one that was submitted. So again, if you guys want to be involved with a channel review, you want me to look over things, you want to kind of see if your thumbnails are good, looking over your cover photos, optimization, anything like that, then make sure that you're in our Facebook group, Passive Prospecting. And if you can, pop your channel in just the thread that comes along with this event every week, then I'll be able to easily access that. That just needs to be done before we start the event. Cool. So we're going to go ahead and I need to figure out exactly how to share my screen again. I always forget how to do this. Let's see, present, share my screen. Okay, here we go. Now I can probably make myself smaller here. I'm sure I can figure this out. Okay, great. Okay, awesome. So living in Austin, Texas. First of all, I have to say that you did a really good job with your headshot. That's one big mistake that I see a lot of people make is that their headshot, everything else can look amazing, but then their headshot is blurry and that looks really, really bad. So especially when it's blown up like this. So you did a great job choosing a good thumbnail picture of yourself that's clear. So that's awesome. So the first thing that I would say is one, contrast. So living in Austin, now the Austin, Texas part is obviously contrasting really, really well. But the living in is having a little bit of a difficult time breaking away from the background. So I would say whenever you do anything with text or even with, just with the images that you use in the background, just make sure that you have really good contrast. Now, a good way to kind of combat that, because, I like the color red, you can use some type of stroke or outline to try and help it stand out a little bit. So that would be my first thing to say. Or you can just, your background, you can maybe darken it or lighten it or, play around with the background just to try and create more contrast. Now, the second thing that I would say is that it's very unclear what you want people to do. And when it comes down to marketing, you really have to dumb it down for people and tell them exactly what you want them to do. Otherwise, they're not going to do it. We all have just the most limited attention spans that you can imagine, and it just gets shorter and shorter, especially as short form content is starting to rise in popularity. So we really need to be very intentional and very direct with what we want people to do on your channel. So if you look at our banner for our channel, it's all about subscribe to learn. Now, what do we want them to do? We want them to subscribe so that they can learn more about living in Dallas, Texas. So that's their first call to action. And it's very clear what we want them to do. We want them to subscribe, and then we tell them why they should subscribe. And so that's what I would do is I would rework it instead of just saying living in Austin, Texas, because that's already the name of your channel. So it's a little redundant. They don't really need to know that. You can talk a little bit more about what you want them to do and why they should do it. The third thing that I would say here is don't put your email address in your banner. I think that overall, having this type of information in here, it's another call to action that's confusing for someone. Should they email you? Should they subscribe to the channel? Should they now, and then again, we go over here. Should they go to your Facebook? Should they go to your LinkedIn? Should they go to your Instagram? It's a little bit confusing because what I'm actually seeing here is I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and potentially 7, 8 calls to action on your banner alone. And so that is very confusing for somebody who's popping in here. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to drive an action from somebody. You want to be very direct and very intentional. So I would take everything about your other social media and axe it, because what people are going to ask when they see that is which platform is going to give me more value. And they're going to go exploring and never come back to your channel. So I would take all of that off, and I would say that your 2 calls to action should be 1, to subscribe, and 2, to schedule a call with you. And you can do that actually inside of your banner as well. Instead of visiting your website, I would actually send them somewhere where they could schedule a call directly with you, because if you send them to the website, they could get lost on the website. There's just so much going on and more calls to action on the website. So it's confusing what you want them to do. So overall on the banner, I would say be direct and just kind of switch it up a little bit so that it's a little bit more clear what you want people to do and why and what they're going to get out of it, what's in it for them. But other than that, like colors and things like that are pretty good. Just add a little bit of contrast. Let's look at your thumbnails next. The first thing I'm noticing here is, again, the color contrast and the font. So now this one, Awesome Spots in Austin, that one is probably a little bit better than this one right here. But you'll notice, and sorry, when I start to hover over it, it starts playing the video. But what you'll notice is that it looks a little bit darker. Like your yellow is a little bit more mustard here, and your red is a little bit, now the red's probably pretty similar, but against the background, it almost looks like there's some type of overlay on top of that. And you don't want that. You know, you want to have your text really, really clear against the background. And it's a little bit of a thin font as well. So I would use something a little chunkier, something like a Futura, something like an Impact, Barlow Condensed, something like that. I would use something more bold so it's easier to see. The next thing that I would do is that I would make sure that you don't have more than 4 words on any thumbnail. It's just too busy. And really it's getting less and less and less. We're really moving to more like 2 to 3 per thumbnail in the editing group. And we're seeing that that's making more of an impact than even the 4. And so anytime that you can, you know, axe out some words, you want your background and your thumbnail to be so self-explanatory that you don't necessarily need a ton of text. So is Austin really that great? That's a lot. It's like, is Austin worth it would be better. Or Austin worth it? That would be better, because that is just in your face. It's easier for you just to make it big and bold and right front and center. So I would definitely limit how much you have to do. And, you know, the power behind marketing is when you have to barely say anything at all for someone to understand exactly what you mean. That's powerful marketing. If you feel like you have to explain it a lot, that tells you that your call to action is super weak. So I would definitely go back and look at some of these and see where you can limit some of these. And I would also go in and actually go and do maybe an A/B test. If you have TubeBuddy, I would go in and actually do a test to see which one performs better. The one that has the less text and maybe a brighter background, or one that has more text and a darker background, and see what works for your audience. Let's look at a few more of these. Awesome. You've got some shorts in here. Looks like your shorts are making an impact, so that's great. Let's see. Oops. Let me go back. See, like right here, anytime that you have something with a serif font, that's another thing. Now, a serif is like a shelf at the bottom of a letter. Anytime you have some type of serif font, it's going to be harder to read. So if you say that we were to, like, I don't know, go like this. If you were to go like this and you're on like a mobile, say that this is more like a mobile view, look how much harder that is to see than it is, you know, when you're close up. So you have to always think of things in terms of, can this be visible? Will this be visible? And not only is it visible, will it stand out on mobile? And if the answer isn't yes to that, then I would rework it completely. Same thing with right here. Right here. Now, it does look like you got some good views on this. So that tells me that you probably use some great keywords in there. But surging growth, I can barely read that, especially if I were to go back like this. I really can't tell what that top word is. It's hard for me to read the second word too. So that's definitely something I would consider. Now on this one, on the luxury home in Central Austin, now that one I think is a lot more clear. And it looks like you're using maybe Impact for the font there. And Escape Home. This one is a fantastic thumbnail right there. Great contrast. You've got a great kind of mysterious, I like to call it mysterious. Sometimes the weird faces, like the ones that we're making when we're closing our eyes, or the ones we're opening our mouths, those ones kind of make people wonder, like, what was she in the middle of saying? You know, what's the tone of the video? So sometimes those ones are the ones that actually catch people. And I think you did a really good job with this one, because again, you've got that bright contrast, and you've got the red on you, and then in the background you've got green. So that's really easy to see. So that overall, as far as your thumbnails go, definitely go with more of a thick font. And with the colors, you can keep the colors, just make sure that the background is really bright and bold and contrasting. Let's just look at one of these videos. Sorry, it's probably because I'm screen sharing. Oh, great. Pattern interrupts, by the way. Yeah, good job. In the very first, part of the segment, you're really doing a great job with pattern interrupts, with getting to the point, telling people what they're going to experience during this video, and encouraging them to stay to the end. All really good elements. So as far as your filming goes, just based on the one that I just looked at, that one looks really good. So great job. I think that overall, the overall content itself is fantastic. Maybe some of the optimization could be changed. Let's go look at the optimization on maybe this one with 574 views. First off, I would say we need to make sure that we're filling in a little bit more of your title. You have up to 100 characters for your headline. And so I would encourage you to use more of that and use more impactful keywords. So make sure that you're making it very keyword central. So discovering Austin is okay. Discovering what it's like to live in Austin, Texas. Live in Austin, Texas is a long tail keyword that I know is trending. It's something that is going to be very searchable. Also adding maybe Austin, Texas or Austin TX to the end of that versus just Austin is also going to make it more searchable. So I would make sure that every headline and every title that you use is very intentional and full of keywords. I would use as much of that space as you possibly can because shorter is not usually better. And you'll see right here, your SEO score is a 5 out of 100. You want to try and get 100 out of 100 on that with TubeBuddy. Let's look at some more of this. You're also missing some chapters, so make sure that you're adding those. And every time you create a chapter, which just basically is like a bookmark for parts of the video, different major parts of the video that are skippable. So if somebody were to click on it, it becomes an active link, takes them to 2 minutes and 15 seconds or 5 minutes and 50 seconds. And those are all keyword opportunities, by the way, because they are searchable in Google. So chapters are a must do for all of your YouTube videos. So make sure that you're doing that. I do see that you've got some hashtags here, so that's really good. Let's see. And then again, I would make sure that all of your description here, and probably need to go back into the back end of your channel and make sure that you have a very strong call to action. And again, I would recommend that your call to action be something like give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email with a specific phone number so that you can make sure that those leads are actually coming from YouTube. Using some type of survey or, if you looked at ours, you'll be able to see it actually goes directly to a buyer call or a seller call where somebody can actually create an appointment with us. And so I would recommend doing that and having that in the description of every single video, because here, look what your call to action is. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on Facebook. Where's the call to action about calling us? We want to make sure that people are actually calling us, right? So be very clear and intentional about your calls to action all across your channel. If that's consistent across the entire channel, you're going to get calls. So yeah, everything looks really good. It just looks like it needs some extra optimization across the board and then just a few little design tweaks. But overall, you have a really good start. So I think if you were to go back and re-optimize a lot of these videos, you're going to probably get quite a surge of traffic just because there's a lot of really good groundwork, and just with some extra keyword targeting, you're going to do really great. Also, just a reminder, for everybody here on the call, make sure that you're pinning a comment with all of your calls to action, the main call to action, I should say, in your first comment. So it should be, part of your description that says how to get a hold of you. Are you thinking about moving to Austin, Texas? Let us help. And then there's the link to that. So make sure that you're pinning your contact information as the first comment here. And that will also make it really easy because you'll be amazed. You can put this in your description. You can have it all over your channel. The same call to action every single time, the same contact information, and people in the comments will still say, how do I get a hold of you? Even if it's like right in their face at the top of the description. So make sure that you're pinning it there too, because people will definitely ask. Overall, great job, though. Great job. I thought that was a really good start. Just a few things to tweak. Okie dokie. So let's go through some of these comments. Okay, Left Coast Living. I had a big drop in views today. I was normally receiving 100 views per day, and then all of a sudden there was a drop. Could that be due to missing on my posting schedule? I don't think so. If you're consistently missing and you stop posting and you're slowly just trailing off and not doing anything anymore, that's where I see more of a big drop off. Now, consistency is important, obviously, but sometimes it can also just be because you had you know, a surge the week before, and now it's showing that you've dropped because you had one giant surge on a different video. So there's a lot of different factors. We can go into your channel and take a look and see what we need to do to improve things. But I kind of doubt that it was just because we missed on a video or two. I think overall it's probably more something to do with what the stats were showing before. And that's the thing. You really have to take things. I like to look at things on a week by week basis and then a month by month basis and look at overall amounts versus trying to go too deep. If you're going day to day, it kind of depends on what your range is too. So let's take a look. We can dive more into your channel and take a look at your analytics, and we can determine what we need to do to improve that. We also have seen situations where we actually had someone who they had been getting thousands of views in the month of, I believe it was the month of December. In December, they were getting, all of a sudden they went, you know, they were getting thousands and thousands of views on these videos. And then the next month they went back down to like, what was their normal amount? 500, 600. Well, you know, they reached out to me and asked me if I could pop into their channel and take a look. So I went and I started taking a look, and lo and behold, their regular was, you know, 500, 600 views per week on their video. And all of a sudden in December, for some unknown reason, they were getting 1,000, 2,000. Well, we dug a little bit deeper, and it turns out that YouTube actually was doing some promotion on their video. It wasn't just the search. Sometimes YouTube will actually put money into your video in a form of, it's a form of testing for them to see what types of audiences. It introduces new audiences to your video. So it was a good thing, but in their statistics, it was showing that they had like a 50% drop in views or an 80% drop in views over the past 3 weeks, which it actually wasn't a huge significant drop. When you actually did it on a 3-month scale, they were still growing. It was just because December had been an incredible month for them. And because of a couple of videos that had kind of caught hold, you know, it was showing lower statistics. So I think there's a few factors at play that we would need to drop into the channel and actually look at those side by side before we could make an analysis on that. But we'll definitely take a look and see what we need to do to make sure things are optimized and going the right direction. Let's see. Is geo-tracking automatic on the iPhone? I've gotten this question a lot, actually. And the answer is yes and no. Yes, there are options for geotagging. However, the metadata rarely sticks when I upload that to YouTube. And so usually what I like to do is I like to pull and double check in something like an Adobe Bridge. And if you see that the metadata is intact in Adobe Bridge, then it's going to stick. Sometimes it will say that it's geotagged, but it's geotagged kind of in its own language. And sorry, this for some reason is not wanting to focus. Gosh, why is that not wanting to focus? My camera is having a hard time today. There we go. And it'll almost be like in its own geotagged language. And so it doesn't necessarily convert. Now I have seen it happen, but I would always double check in something like Adobe Bridge, because if the metadata is there, it means that it's actually, you know, part of the actual metadata and not just part of another program that says it's geotagged. So yes and no. I would always double check with something that's, you know, created to create that type of metadata. Hello, Teresa. How are you? Cool. Okay, let's see. I'm working with Jeff Beltzer and Associates. I'm his assistant. We have about 5 videos filmed, and we are wondering how to launch. Okay, are you in the video editing program? And I apologize. I don't know that I've seen your name come over my desk yet, but if you've started in the video editing program, there should be some type of checklist that you go through. It should have been sent to your email. And then, of course, you'll also receive a coordinate board, which will also have a checklist of items that you'll need to do before you can get on a call with me. And then we'll go through some stuff and get you launched. So let me know if you are in the video editing program. Let me know, and we'll make sure that we get you started. Hello, got it. We will give them a call to action and remove our email. Didn't even see that the email was on there. Yeah. Sorry, I'm really behind. Whenever I put the screen up, it also makes it so I can't see any of the comments anymore. So sorry if I'm really, really behind on this. Let's see. Does adding the chapters not promote skipping ahead, shorter view duration? No. Sometimes it seems counterintuitive in some cases, but what it actually does is it improves the user experience, which means that YouTube pushes it out. So ultimately it gets pushed to more people if it has chapters versus if it doesn't. So even if somebody is skipping ahead, ultimately it's serving it to more people. And so the people who are actually watching the video, you get more watch time from that. So anytime you improve the user experience, even if it feels like, well, I don't want to give them a reason to skip through the video, you know, it actually is going to help your overall view duration and your watch time. Also keep in mind, if you feel like you have content that people want to skip through, it might be something that you need to check your content. If you feel like you're worried about somebody wanting to just skip to the end, then that tells you that the content may not be as good as you need it to be. So that's actually a good litmus test for your own content. I asked this question on module 3. What if the monthly searches for city shows insufficient data regarding using TubeBuddy? Yeah, so sometimes what happens is if you're in a smaller area, you're going to find that maybe your particular city doesn't have a whole lot of search volume, which is okay. So what I always tell people to do is look for a secondary keyword. So think of the next biggest city that you're surrounded by. So say that you're in, I'll use this one just because it's at the top of my head, but Salt Lake City, Utah. You know, that's a pretty recognizable place, right? Capital of Utah. So then maybe you're trying to do a video for Saratoga Springs. Saratoga Springs is a lot smaller. And so you may find that there's insufficient data there, but it is kind of close to Salt Lake City, or it's close to Provo. So you'd want to do the search and see, or Sandy, do a search for some of those bigger cities and see which one comes up better, and use that as a secondary keyword in your tags and in your description. So you definitely piggyback off of the traffic from some of the bigger keywords, but make that your main keyword still. Just back it up with a secondary keyword, and that's totally fine. Let's see. I have several cities in my area. Come back with insufficient data. Yeah, greater Seattle. Yeah, so I would say you want to use Seattle, Washington in pretty much every single tag group. When you create a video, I would almost just go in there and create a default tag group surrounding all of the major keywords of Seattle, Seattle suburbs, Seattle city, Seattle, greater Seattle, Washington area, that type of thing. I would have those kind of in your back pocket as almost default tags that you use on every single video. And then you also mention Seattle, Washington throughout your copy so that you can refer back to that and use that as a secondary keyword for your copy as well. So I would just piggyback off of the traffic from some of the bigger areas. And then again, a lot of the time your job is to expose people to smaller areas that they've never heard of. So it's natural that you're going to run into some of this insufficient data coming up. And so just think of it as how would I explain to somebody how to get to this area? If that involves saying, well, it's just south of Washington, D.C. Well, it's just south of Salt Lake City. Well, you're probably going to want to use that as an actual keyword in your copy because that's how you're introducing somebody. It's probably what they're searching for, and you're introducing them to a better place to live if maybe they don't want to live in the big traffic areas or they don't actually want to live in the heart of that big city. They're probably looking for a suburb, but they don't know much about the area. So definitely lean on those secondary keywords. Is the video editing program in the modules? Yes, you should be able to see that in school. It's also in Kartra. I don't think anybody's still in Kartra. For people who are still kind of trickling over, it is there. It's in the resources area. You can also just go to passiveprospecting.com and go to the video editing tab. Let's see. How can I join the editing team? Yep. So you can just go, like I said, to passiveprospecting.com and go to video editing, and you'll be able to find the video editing packages there. We also have an SEO only package. So if you have an editor, but you don't really feel comfortable with the optimization, we do offer optimization only. Seattle's biggest city. So what are, I guess the question would be, what is the keyword that you're actually looking for? Because if you're looking for a long tail keyword, it could still come back insufficient. I guarantee you that either Seattle WA, like the abbreviation, or Seattle Washington, either one of those is going to come back with good data. Now, you want to start with a short tail keyword. You don't want a long tail keyword when you're looking for like a channel name or a video title. You want to start with short tail and work your way outwards. So for example, I had somebody the other day that came to me and they said, I want my video title to be this. And the video title was something like, I can't even remember what the city was for, so I'm just going to make it up. It was something along the lines of living in Denver, Colorado, and eating around town. I mean, it was something along the lines of that. And they said, this got 100% score on TubeBuddy. And I said, let me go look at that. I went and I looked at it, and sure enough, it had 100%, but guess what? It had absolutely zero search traffic. And the reason was because there was zero competition with it. And so it had, you know, a marginally good keyword kind of in the center of it. But it also, the long tail keyword itself had zero search traffic. So I said, don't name your channel that. Because ultimately, if you're basing all of your traffic off of a 100% score, that can be deceiving. So make sure that you're starting with a short tail keyword. Seattle, Washington, or Seattle, WA is going to be a pretty good search term to start with. And then you can kind of work your way out. Like, you know, I don't know if you're looking for this based to base off of your channel name, or if you're basing it for an actual video name. But if it's for a channel name, I would start with Seattle, Washington, and then go living in Seattle, Washington, or moving to Seattle, Washington, or Seattle, Washington life, or something along those lines, and start kind of getting bigger and bigger until the data stops. Does it also make sense to, in my situation, use a statewide tag like horse property in Montana? Yeah, I mean, if horse property source property in Montana, I tend to get a little bit ahead of myself when I'm talking, by the way. My brain moves a little faster than my mouth does. Then yeah, if that has search volume, add that as a tag. Now, again, YouTube is getting better and better at finding relevancy with your tags. And so you definitely want to be very intentional. And I guess that's the word of the day, is intentional. You want to be extremely intentional about what types of keywords, what types of tags, what types of titles you want to use, what calls to actions you have. If it isn't related to that particular area, maybe you don't really talk about it in the video, I would probably, if you are going to use it as one of your last tags. I wouldn't use it as the top tag, or, you know, one of the top tags. But if it has search volume with it and you talk about it in the video, then absolutely, then add that into that. I think that's great. Anytime that you can find something that has good search volume to it, doesn't hurt to add it to the end of your tag list. Would it be possible? Yes. So all of these calls are actually recorded, living in Austin, Texas. And sorry, I think that your name was actually here. It's Daphne, right? So yeah, Daphne, all of these are recorded. So you can just come back directly after this call and you can go over to our live section on our channel and you'll see this one recorded. It'll probably take an hour or so to process. But yeah, all of these are recorded. So feel free to come back and look it over again. Weird. Today it came back with good data and yesterday it was insufficient. Interesting. Thanks for the tip though. Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Sometimes, you know, as weird as it may sound, sometimes if you add like an extra space or, you know, a period or a comma or something like that, it can actually change completely. And so it turns it into a completely different keyword. So it probably was just something silly like that. It would be related to the video for sure. Oh, okay, great. Yeah, then absolutely. If that has good search volume, let's use it for sure. Yeah, you're welcome, Mr. Malcolm. Always happy to help. Okay, Aaron, just to dig deeper into this. Nope, don't apologize. This is what this call is for. The two other biggest cities around Seattle are both Tacoma and Bellevue. Tacoma comes back with data, but Bellevue is still coming back insufficient. Yeah, and that's okay. That does not mean that you don't want to include it. You can still use it there because, again, there's insufficient data doesn't mean that there's zero. It's just probably too small in comparison to the other areas for them to really pay any mind to. So as far as optimizing, Bellevue is not going to be the number one keyword that you could potentially use to drive traffic, but it's still searchable. So still use it. I would just say if you're looking at potentially like, okay, so for instance, let's put this into an example. So let's say that you're trying to cover all of the different cities near Seattle, Washington, right? So say that one of the cities that you wanted to do a video on was Bellevue, Washington. Well, I would say in the title for that, I'd say what it's like to live in Bellevue, Washington. And then the next part of the title would be something like Seattle, Washington suburb or Seattle, Washington cities. That's going to be a keyword because people are probably looking for cities and locations or suburbs close to Seattle. So again, you're bringing in that larger keyword. It's a secondary keyword because you're still going to want to optimize for Bellevue, Washington to make it for hyper relevancy. But you're still bringing in that secondary keyword as a part of your title. You'll also mention that in your description as well so that YouTube knows you're not keyword stuffing, that it actually is a relevant piece of the data. And then you'll add it into your tag section as well. So it just kind of, if you sprinkle it into different areas and piggyback off of the bigger keyword for the traffic, that's going to serve you well. and it will bring some extra traffic to a smaller keyword. So that's kind of an example of how I would do that. Let's see. What I am simply typing into TubeBuddy is Bellevue, Washington. So another thing you can do is when you're actually doing a search for a city and it comes back insufficient data, a lot of times you'll see on the right-hand side of TubeBuddy, you'll also see some keyword suggestions. So I would do some extra searches on some of those other ones. It's probably going to be something related to Bellevue, Washington. I would try also the abbreviation Bellevue WA. And see if that does something for you. But yeah, you can see some of those suggestions on the right-hand side. And again, if it comes back and all of them are insufficient data, don't sweat it. Just make sure you're using a secondary keyword to boost the traffic and you'll be fine. I have a scheduled Zoom call with video editing. Do I need to use the passive prospecting video editing team? No, no, you don't have to. You'll be on a call with me. It's a group call, but we'll go ahead and answer any questions that you might have about the video editing team. And then if you decide that we're a good fit for you, then awesome. If not, then, you could go someplace like Fiverr or Upworks. You'll probably have to hire an editor and an optimizer if you do it that way, though, just because most editors don't know how to optimize. We do everything, and so it's all included in your service, including the channel build out. That's another thing you'll probably have to look into if you decided not to do the video editing squad. You'll probably need to go and find somebody who can build out your channel too, unless you wanted to do that yourself. But that involves like a graphic designer, because on our team, we have dedicated departments. We have a design team, a graphic design team that works on your banner image, all of your thumbnails. We have an editing team that works on all of your videos. You have a dedicated editor. You have an account manager that helps logistics and move things through the system. And then you have an optimizer as well. So everybody kind of has a dedicated role, which makes it and so things are done correctly. So you may have to look for a couple of different people to fill those roles if you go through Fiverr, but it's totally up to you. You don't have to use our editing team. It's not a requirement. Let's see. What's it like to live in Bellevue, Washington? Grady said, yeah, I think that would be a great title. Yeah. I mean, again, I would probably do some keyword research and see if live in Bellevue, Washington, live in Bellevue, WA, greater Seattle area, greater Seattle city, something like that. I would just make sure that each of the pieces of your headline, that there's keywords in each piece of your headline. And as long as you're being intentional with that, then that will probably rank well. And it looks like Bellevue WA came back with 159K. Yep. So definitely don't shy away from using the different variations, because what you think might be the most searched thing might not actually be the most searched thing. Sometimes those abbreviations, especially with the longer ones, this is what I usually find. I usually find that the cities that have really long first names, like Philadelphia, PA, I believe, and now I'm just saying this off the top of my head, so don't quote me on this, but Philadelphia, PA, I'm pretty sure that ranks better than Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Just think about what someone's doing when they're like trying to type out, what they're searching for. We're lazy, right? We're going to do the easiest thing possible. So it's probably going to end up being the abbreviation when a city's a little bit longer with the name. So great. I'm super glad that you were able to find that. Perfect. Well, you know me, guys. I like to blaze through these things, and I'm telling you, my brain moves faster than my mouth. So sorry if I sped through some of that stuff. I'm going to go back through here and just make sure that I grabbed everybody's questions. I think that I got everybody's questions. Does anybody else have any other questions they'd like me to answer today? One thing that I will say now, for those of you who did not see and who were not on our course call yesterday, that is one other thing that I'll mention to you. I did post in school yesterday because we had a great question on how do I find out if I have a brand channel or not, and why do I want a brand account versus a personal account on YouTube? What's the big deal? Well, there's a couple of reasons you want a brand account. A brand account is definitely going to be better in the long term. If you ever decide that you want to sell this thing, it's going to look better on paper. And from an accounting perspective, it's an actual business account. And so it's going to be a little bit easier to not only, sell and to look legit, but it's also going to connect better to things like TubeBuddy. That's going to connect better. It's also going to make it really easy for you to transfer or share ownership as well, because it's more of a top level type of account where you control it from a Google level versus the YouTube level. And it comes with some extra analytics and things like that too. So I would definitely get a brand account. And if you don't have a brand account, there's an easy way for you to figure it out. Now, all you need to do is you need to go to google.com. And again, I'm going to butcher this because I remember the URL is a little bit different than what I thought it was. So let me just pull it up because I actually wrote it down for everybody yesterday. Where did it go? It was somewhere in school. Anyway, you go to Google. You can go to Google, Google brand accounts, and there will be a drop down of the Google brand accounts that you own underneath that email. That's one way for you to look it up. If it's not there, then it's not a brand account. The other way to do it is to go to YouTube, and on the YouTube side in the settings section, you can find if it's a brand account or not. And I'm going to try and find my post from yesterday because I actually copied and pasted the exact link, but for some reason, it's probably just because you guys have so many amazing questions and comments. I'm sure I just got buried in here. Oh, here it is. Yeah, so you just need to go to youtube.com/account_advanced. And I can put this in the chat. This is probably the easiest way for you to find out whether or not you have a brand account. So let me just post this in here and you'll be able to tell whether or not you have a brand account there. If you go there and you click on it and it says move this account to a brand account, you know that you have a personal account. Now, when you convert, and if you decide that you want to convert the account that you already have to a brand account, the only thing to keep in mind is that it will delete all of your comments. A lot of your other statistics will stay intact. And of course, your subscribers are going to stay and all of that stuff, but your comments will all be deleted. So if you're okay parting with those, go ahead and convert it. Otherwise, you may just want to start a brand new account. Oh, good. We've got some more questions that came in. Awesome. How far out are the video editing Zoom calls scheduled? Should I wait until I have videos ready? No, so you can meet with our team whenever you want to ask questions about it. It is a group call. So we have those, I believe, every week. We might have 2 a week right now. But yeah, we have those every single week, and you can ask questions about the program and get those types of questions answered. Once you actually purchase a video editing package, you'll also get a kickoff call with me, and that's where we'll kind of go over some of the more nitty-gritty details. And if you're kind of confused on the process or anything like that, after you've done your checklist, then we can go over those things there in that call as well. So, at that point, I definitely would not sign up for a video editing package until you have a bank of videos ready to go, because it will your billing recurs on the same day every week. And that's kind of an accountability program to make sure that you're producing content. So I would say usually 2 to 3 weeks of content ready before you actually sign up for the program is a safe bet. I just tried it like all the cities had issues with the long names. Yep. Awesome. Oh, I'm so glad that helped. Yeah. TubeBuddy, it's one of those things you just have to do a lot of tinkering, a lot of playing around with TubeBuddy. And you also can get lost in the rabbit hole. So don't have too much fun, right? Like come out and do some content from time to time. I'm a nerd. I like to go in and look at a lot of the search traffic and stuff for different keywords though. So I know you can get stuck. You can get stuck in the wheel when you're trying to look up different keywords and stuff. Confused. I am part of the program to get the 8-bit. Yep. Yeah. So yes. Okay. So sorry, I didn't really finish my thought there. I read it and didn't say it out loud. But yes, if you're part of our Done With You program, then you do get a certain number of videos edited for your first month, for your first 30 days. Now that 30 days does not begin until you send us your first video that's ready to go. So I would again wait until you have at least a week's worth of videos ready to go before you send us videos. And that way, we don't fall behind and we don't have the problem in 30 days that you've only submitted 4 videos, but your 30 days is up. So make sure that you have at least one week, probably 2 weeks ready to go before you actually start that with us. But with the Done With You program, you should have received a welcome email and then also a coordinate board. So if you haven't received your coordinate board for any reason, then just email us at support@passiveprospecting.com. That has your checklist of items for you to do. One of them is finishing the course. You do have to get through 100% of the course before you can hop on a video call with me, but a video call is included with that as well. We'll go over some of those details on that video call. Oh, cool. Yeah. And I think that I emailed you back about maybe it was a different thing. I haven't been in my email for the past couple of hours. So it's possible that you sent me something else and I just haven't seen it yet. But I did email you back about something else, I think a little bit earlier today. So how important is the living in city state name? It seems everyone else is using that name. Yeah. So living in, it's just because it's a good keyword. So it doesn't necessarily have to be what you name your channel. I would just go with something that has some search value. So ultimately, I've seen some with life at the end of it, or homes for sale in Salt Lake City, Utah. It's something, as long as it has search volume and it has some search value, it describes what you're actually doing, go ahead and use that channel name. Now, the channel name is really not as important as it used to be. The channel name used to be, one of the sole SEO related titles that you would have on your entire channel. So now they've really expanded the use of your metadata, expanded where you can optimize and things like that. So the channel name, in terms of importance, is probably the least important out of all of the different elements that you can optimize on your channel. What it's going to come down to is correctly optimizing and, going through all of your actual video content and making sure that those are named and optimized well. So I would say that that's the most important thing. Other than that, just make sure that your city and your state name are included, or the city and the state abbreviation are included, depending on what has more traffic. And then something related to that would have some keyword value, basically. Let's see. What is the best way, or who can I get to geotag for Google? Oh, your Google business profile. Yeah. So geotagging is something that we do in the video editing program. We don't necessarily have just a geotagging service. In the course, actually, in our course, you're going to find a module on how to geotag. So I would definitely look that over. There's a way to manually do that. You will need Adobe Bridge, which is free, but you'll go in there and you'll basically do a couple of, it's weird because it's a couple of conversions. And when I say that, people are like deer in the headlights, but trust me, coming from somebody who had to take the same math class 3 times in college. Yes, I did. I took the same math class 3 times in college and finally passed. So I'm not great at math. Great at figuring things out, but not great at math. And I am able to do that really, really easily. So when I say conversions, when I say equations, it's not as difficult as it sounds. It's pretty simple. It is a little bit tedious though. And so what I will say on a serious note though, is that it is going to be better if you do it manually than if you rely on some type of geotagging app, because generally speaking, and I've been wrong, but generally speaking, the metadata doesn't stick if you try to use some type of shortcut. What are the best methods to try to get the edge over other realtors who are doing well on YouTube in a competitive market? More content and better optimization. More content, more consistency, and better optimization would be the 3 prongs that I would say are going to be the big key there. There's a lot of real estate agents that are out there, a lot of people creating content, but most of them, they don't really know what they're doing. And so, one, they're creating the wrong type of content, and they're like one of the only providers in the area. And so they're still getting the traction because they happen to be using the correct keywords. But a lot of them, they're not doing the content in a way that actually engages people. Now, that's another thing I should mention. Don't be confused or fooled by numbers on YouTube, because numbers mean absolutely nothing. I will give you a really great example. And I am so sorry. My throat is so dry today. I don't know what it is, because it's been raining here for like 3 freaking days. So it's humid as all get out here, but I have the driest throat today. So an example. So out here we have, kind of out here in Northwest Georgia is where I am. And we only have a couple of people who are doing videos. Well, I remember when we were doing our initial research for my husband's channel, and there was one guy that was out here. It was a younger guy, probably in his very early 20s, that was doing a channel out here. And we were like, how are we ever going to compete with this guy? This guy has 20,000, 30,000 views on some of his videos. Well, me being the person that I am, I started to dig a little bit, and I found out that the guy was probably using ads, because he had absolutely 0 engagement and he was hiding his subscriber count. So that tells me that he was paying for traffic to his channel. So numbers can be completely deceiving. Vanity metrics mean absolutely nothing. Another great example, Levi was out shopping at the mall, for some Nikes, and he went to the Nike store. I believe it's the Nike store. And he ran into another major creator from the Dallas area. And they met up and they were kind of talking shop a little bit. And, you know, he's one of our main competitors. And he was asking him, so how is traffic? How is lead count from your YouTube channel? Because you guys are absolutely crushing it. I see how many views you get on your videos, and, you know, we're just trying to catch up. I don't think that we had gotten over what he has on his YouTube channel yet. I think that we've overtaken him as far as subscriber count goes. And he said, you know, YouTube's not really a lead generator for me. And Levi was shocked because he's thinking, wow, this guy gets, you know, 10, 20,000 views on his videos a lot of times. That's pretty normal for him, but he's not getting the leads. And it's because his content wasn't exactly what it needed to be to attract the buyers. He said, yeah, most of our stuff comes from other places. Like I think that he said that he was doing some paid ads and things like that. But it really wasn't something he was looking at as a major lead generator. It was really more for presence for him. So you really can't look at numbers and vanity metrics and try to gauge like what success looks like for that person. You know, it's the same concept that you have to think about in marketing. When you look at a great, sleek website, that does not mean somebody's making money from it, right? It probably means they spent $20,000 on a website and now that they're broke because they spent $20,000 on a website, right? So I would definitely say just do more content, and better optimization. You're going to end up overtaking those people, and you'll probably win the business overall, because when you're doing it right, you get put in front of different audiences and you end up winning. For brand accounts, is it worth starting over if my personal account has 800 plus subscribers and between 300 to 800 views? Yeah, no, actually, that sounds great. I guess it really kind of depends. When it comes to making the decision of making a brand new channel or sticking with the channel that you have, I typically say, how consistent have you been and how relevant are your videos? Now, if you have a bunch of videos of you and your kids jumping on the tramp and home and family vlogs or cooking vlogs mixed in with some restaurant tours and a couple of occasional real estate videos, and I would say that's probably not a very relevant video or very relevant channel. So I would probably start over from there, because it's going to be a little bit of an uphill battle to try and rebrand that, retag and reoptimize when you already have some search value for different things on your channel. So that will be an uphill battle. But if this is something that you've done that's been purely real estate related this entire time, one of the greatest ranking factors on Google is time on internet. And so I say, if you have relevancy, it's hyper relevant already, it just requires some tweaking on your content, on your optimization, then stick with the channel that you have, especially when you have close to 1,000 subscribers. There's some value there. So I would say probably stick to it if you have relevant videos that are already on there and you've been consistent in uploading. Let's see. I have an appointment Friday to sign up with passive prospecting recruiter. Are the optimization and video editing separate from the program? Should I ask the recruiter? Yeah, I think it depends on what level that you're actually looking at, because we have just the course and then we also have a done with you program. So the done with you program includes 30 days of video editing up to 8 videos. And so if you end up doing that program, then yes, the video editing is included for the first 30 days. But if you decide just to do the course, then you can just look at the video editing program as an optional, add-on. Do you have any affordable packages? 1,100 is a lot for me, but I do see value. Love what you do. Thanks. I would say if you're struggling with the idea of doing 2, because 1,100 is about, I believe that's our 2 package, the 2 per week package, then start with 1 and see how it fits for you. And generally speaking, the way that it works is if you start with 1 to 2 a week, and then you decide to increase your video count later, that actually can help you, because YouTube sees that you're adding more content versus trying to retract and do less content. And so it will push it out a little bit. I think the people who end up starting with like 1 or 2 videos and then increase later down the road end up getting a tiny little bit of a boost. So I would just say in terms of saying affordable, I would think about how much time you're personally spending creating these videos. And if that's, if you're charging, an hourly rate, is it worth it to just offload that and use it as the tax deduction because it's a business expense? So I would say that, and I would say maybe start with just a lower package, because that's all we have right now for the editing side. Now we do have SEO only. So if you wanted to try out your own personal editor from a different place and you wanted us to optimize for you, we do have those packages as well. So we've got options in there, but yeah, like I said, the prices are kind of what they are right now. So great. Thank you. You are so welcome. Let's see. Flip queen. How can I be sure no one already has the name I'm thinking of? Well, you probably can't. I mean, I would probably do a search and see what you can find out, but I wouldn't be concerned about having the same name as somebody else, because ultimately anyone can change their channel name to be anything. Now, the handle is going to be a little bit more powerful in terms of your keyword relevancy, and because that is unique. And so I would definitely look at that and try to align whatever your handle is with what your channel name is, and help that kind of determine what you want it to be. The handle is ultimately going to be the only unique thing about your channel. Anybody could go in and create 1,000 of these. We have the same thing with Living in Dallas. We have 1,000 Living in Dallas channels now. And that doesn't bother us, because ultimately our optimization on each video is better than theirs, and we're outranking everybody because of the individual optimization. The channel name is really not as important as people make it out to be. It's just an extra added boost. It's kind of a cherry on top for people as far as keyword relevancy and just keyword value in general. Let's see. I just logged into my account. Yeah, I actually put the link to where you can find that. Let me see if I can find it again. It's somewhere up here. If you scroll through the comments, you'll see I actually copied and pasted the link to where to find an individual, where you can find where, if it's a brand channel in your individual account. I can post it again though. Let's see. Here it is. I'll post it one more time. Is it a good rule of thumb to never run ads or push videos? Absolutely, yes. Because if you run ads to your channel, you're basically telling YouTube who you want to have on your channel, versus YouTube being the ultimate person telling you this is who you should have on your channel, because this is who's searching for it. So it does kind of murky the waters a little bit. And it makes it very difficult for YouTube to find an organic audience. And organic audiences tend to bring you the hot leads. Paid audiences are not usually as hot of leads. And so you find fewer of them, and it's more expensive, obviously, for you to use the ad method. I also find that it just, generally speaking, it really kind of warps your audience and creates something that maybe isn't necessarily the best for your channel. It's better to let YouTube tell you that, because their AI is that powerful. So I would do everything organic. It is slower. You know, generally speaking, people get a little bit antsy because they're like, oh, I wish that I could grow faster. Why am I not getting very many views? Why did I get 15, views on my first video? That doesn't even seem good. Trust the process. Know that it's going to be slow growth, but the growth that you do get, those are people who intentionally sought you out, versus people who are just passing through and decided to watch your video because they were bored at 3 a.m. on a Saturday night, right? So just make sure that you trust the process with that. Does Adobe Bridge work better than just putting the metadata in the properties? Yeah, you could do it that way. I've always done it through Adobe Bridge, just because that's always what I've done. I've been an Adobe person forever. So if you know how to do it just, purely in the metadata, you could probably do it that way as well. Ultimately, metadata is metadata. So I just like to do it through Adobe Bridge. You do need to do a conversion process though. So that's why I say go back and look in the modules, and you'll see how to geotag. And there is a process for how you convert those values and put them into Adobe Bridge so they actually point to the right place. Okay, so I think this is our last question of the day. And so we'll go ahead and end with this. Maybe I'm not far enough into the program yet, but do you recommend getting your name or realtor completely out of the channel name and handle? Yes, I would take realtor out of it completely, unless it's just like the most on fire keyword for your area. Occasionally you're going to find like maybe Seattle, Washington realtor is super awesome and you have 160,000 views for it, then absolutely use that. But generally speaking, people are looking more for the area and looking to see what it looks like in the area rather than looking for a realtor. So I would lean back on the actual data versus just our assumptions about what people are looking for. Because generally speaking, what we think people are looking for on YouTube is not what they're looking for on YouTube. So I would lean back into your statistics and see if that, is supported by the data. But if you don't see that there's much, traffic for it, then I would probably just pull that out of the name completely. Because really people are looking for what's it like to live in Seattle, Washington? What's it like to live in Bellevue, Washington? Those types of things, rather than, I think a realtor is kind of the cherry on top, because they think, oh, great. Well, I was thinking about moving. Might as well call this guy. I didn't realize I was going to find a realtor on YouTube. A lot of times people are looking for the actual location and lifestyle. Sorry, I logged in using the link, but it only gives username and password and move this channel to a different brand. Where does it clarify if I have a brand? Sorry. Yeah, so if it says a different brand account, odds are that you are already in a brand account. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Username, password. If it says move this account to a brand account, then that means it's a personal account. If it says another brand account or a different brand account, then that means that you're already using one. But anyway, we appreciate you guys being here today. It is top of the hour. And so hopefully we're going to have Levi back next week. I'm pretty sure that he'll be back. He's in Tampa this week. So hopefully we'll be able to get back to that. But otherwise, feel free to interact in our group. Well, we've got our Facebook group going for those of you who are in our passive prospecting course. We also have school. So feel free to interact there. For those of you who have been in there, it is definitely a very lively group. So make sure that you're in there and asking questions. I'm sure you're going to get about 1,000 responses if you do have a question there. Of course, if you guys are interested in the video editing program, again, that is available. And we do have, frequent calls about that so that you can ask questions and kind of clarify the process a little bit. So feel free to jump on one of those. We have a Calendly. You'll just need to sign up for that call. That's available at passiveprospecting.com. Click on video editing. And if you scroll down a little bit, there's a little link that will take you to that calendar. And then, of course, last thing, but certainly not least, we have a book coming out. Levi and Travis worked really hard on that. It's called Passive Prospecting, of course, because what isn't in our group, right? And that will be coming out in March 7th to be exact. So make sure that you check that out and sign up to be the first to get that. That's available on the website as well. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week and we'll see you in the groups. Bye, guys.